Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me on the St. Pete's Soul podcast. I am so excited to have the owner of SunState Yoga with me today, Carrington Kilgroe. Hi, Carrington. Thanks for joining me.
There. Yeah, I'm so glad to be here, Brittany. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. As I've shared with you, I love doing this podcast because I get to sit down with local business owners and just like hear their stories. And it's exciting for me to hear your story because I feel like it makes that extra connection, and that people can come into your studio and feel like they know you a little bit better. I think that's such a cool thing.
For sure. It's funny, when I was looking at your website, I absolutely loved your video that tells a little bit about your story.
Yeah.
And just a brief background on me. Before I moved back home to St. Pete to open up SunState Yoga, I was working for a video marketing company in Atlanta. And so one of the main things that we were doing was working with business owners, having them do videos just like the one that you did, telling their why they do what they do. And so I was really impressed at that video.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, that was really fun to do. It was my first time doing something like that big, of a project. But the company that did it was called Evoker, and that's all they do. And they did a great job. Made me feel very comfortable. So
it made me really excited to sit down and talk with you today. And because I definitely can get the sense that you genuinely really care about the why behind what people are up to, and especially, right, like that's what makes St. Pete so special.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate those kind words. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah. I mean, I think, owning my own business in real estate, when you know your why, I think it makes such a big difference. So, that's another reason why I love to, share what your whys are. So to start, tell me about yourself, kind of your background, which you mentioned a little bit of that, but you're a local to St. Pete, correct?
I am. I was born and raised here in St. Pete. I went to St. Pete High School, graduated in 2013, and I really wanted to go away for college. I wanted to get as far away as I could. If you're from Florida, you know about Bright Future scholarships. It's such an amazing deal. So I got as far away as I could while staying in state and went to Florida State in Tallahassee. And I have had so many different types of jobs and experiences. I would have never guessed that when I was living here in high school, or even when I was coming home from college, that I would ever be into yoga, let alone own a yoga studio. I honestly used to think that yoga was only for people who like hardcore recycle, don't use any plastic, and don't shave their armpits. Like that was, if you were that, you couldn't do yoga. And then, so I worked in PR, I worked in marketing, I worked in sales, I've worked at a hair salon, shampooing people's heads. I've just done a lot of different stuff. And when I got to Atlanta, right after I graduated college, I was looking for a job there. Again, I just kind of wanted to get away, experience something new, but didn't have a job lined up. And it was tough. I was there for probably about 2.5 months before I got my job offer for the company that I worked for. And in that time, I was really stressed and really overwhelmed. Not really sure what I wanted to do. And I stumbled my way into a yoga studio. And I had never been into yoga. Like I said, I also thought it was really boring. I was really into high intensity workouts, think like HIIT, spin, kickboxing. And I stepped into this yoga studio in Atlanta, and the room was hot and the poses were hard. And I sweat so much in that first class and felt so challenged, and my body felt so good the entire time. I just fell in love. And so I just kept going every day and started my job at the video marketing company in Atlanta. And yoga was really like the thing that kept me going, even when my job got really hard and really stressful. And I go from 0 to 100 really quickly. So I had only really been doing yoga for about 2.5 months before I jumped in and did my teacher certification program. And that was in 2017. And at the end of that year is when I decided that ultimately I wanted to move back home and open up a studio of my own.
Okay. Yeah. So I feel like I hear this from other people. It sounds like you just kind of stumbled into it, and like when you weren't really expecting it. So I think that's very
100%.
interesting.
100%. It was not the plan. I never really saw myself owning a business. I always saw myself like living in New York, climbing up the corporate ladder. Mm-hmm. And now I'm a hometown girl running a yoga studio. So it's like, I couldn't be any happier though.
So at the end of 2017, you said, is that when you moved back, or what was that timeline?
Not. It's when I decided that this is what I wanted to do. Like a lot of entrepreneurs, the road was rocky getting there. I actually quit my job. I'd made that decision like December of 2017. And then I quit my job in March of 2018. And I was like, I know this is what I want to do. I need to risk it all, like go make this happen for myself. And after about 3 months of like really getting clear on all that I wanted to do, all that I wanted to be up to, I realized I think I need some more money. Like I think I need to like make more than what I'm doing right now, working at the hair salon and teaching yoga. So I was fortunate enough that the CEO of my old company reached back out to me out of the blue, and they were like, hey, we could actually really use some help. Would you consider coming back to work for us? And I was like, you know what? The timing is perfect. Let me go ahead and do that. And it was supposed to just be temporary. It was supposed to just be like a month to 2 months. And I ended up going back for another 1.5 years.
Wow.
And everything that I learned in that second 1.5 years there is everything that I needed to know in order to do what I do now. And that is like one of the biggest lessons that I've probably learned in the past few years, is that sometimes you have to spend a little more time in a place that's like not where your end game is, but you're still cultivating those same skills, the same experience, all of those things that are going to make a huge difference when you do get to where you're going. But just trust that like if it takes a little longer to get there than you think, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I think our culture just promotes that like instant gratification. Like we're so impatient, we want like go, we want it now. And you're right. It usually takes more time than we want it to when you're starting a new business. But it sounds like you were able to like reflect and appreciate all the lessons that you learned along the way, which makes you a better business owner now. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. So, okay. So then you said 1.5 years. So does that put you into 2020 when you open your business?
Puts me into 2019.
Okay.
So 2019 rolled around and I was like, this is the year. I spent pretty much the entire year of 2019 getting my branding clear, looking for studio space. And I was doing all this from Atlanta, looking for teachers who wanted to teach, and just doing all of this on the side while I'm still working my regular job, which it was an intense job. I was working like 12 to 14-hour days every day. And so around August time is when I found the location that I'm in now, fell in love with it, and signed a lease. I had a contract to stay working in Atlanta through the end of October. So my wonderful mom, Carrington Kilgroe, shout out to her, would FaceTime me every day while she was meeting with the contractors at the studio. So I would go to the bathroom. I would go in, there was a big stall that had a shower in it. And I'd be like, all right, mom, show me around. Like what needs to happen today? I'm like making these calls, completely renovating the studio from Atlanta. And then finally, when I got back home at the end of October, we finished it out. And then I opened the first week of December of 2019.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's like a huge undertaking to monitor construction from afar. And wow. Yeah. You sound like you have an awesome mom for sure.
I do. And I actually also used an amazing interior designer. Her name's Kristen Bullard. And she's phenomenal. And so the two of them worked really well together to help bring my vision to life while I wasn't there.
Wow. So did you, where did you get the funding from? Was it family support? Was it a business loan? What did that look like?
Yeah. So I was able to save up a lot of money when I was in Atlanta. I was working, my job at the video marketing company was in sales. And so it's one of the nice things about sales. People really knock sales sometimes, but it gives you the freedom to really create what you want to for yourself. And I really liked that. So half of it was funded from that. The other half came from my wedding fund, as my parents call it, the money that they've put away my entire life for me to someday have the wedding of my dreams. And that no longer exists. But I was like, you know what? Wedding's a lot further off in my future right now. I'll make that back and more, and I'll pay for my own damn wedding when it comes to it.
There you go.
So yeah. And I really truly feel so blessed to have my family here, because I was able to live at home with my dad, and really did have the support of my family and for those first 6 months of being open.
Wow. That sounds like the best setup, because you have a great support system there.
Yeah. And I was really grateful to not have to take out loans. I actually had been preparing to take out loans. This just shows my age so much. Like a year and a half before I was planning on moving back, I realized that I really needed to get a credit card, because if I was going to open up a business, I needed to start getting some kind of credit. And at this point, I had lived my entire life purely off of debit cards and had never opened up a line of credit. And so I was like, I was preparing to have to do that. But I was really grateful that I didn't need to.
Yeah. Yeah. It's smart to live off debit cards, because that means you're living within your means. But yeah, we live in a world where you need credit. So
yeah, for sure.
So where did you get the name from?
So it's so funny, because I have a few different names that were like going to be the name of the studio. And now I look back and I think, what was I thinking? The first name that I really thought it was going to be Sattva Project. And Sattva is a word in Sanskrit, in yoga, that means light, pure, loving, cleanliness, like just all of the things that I really wanted this space to represent. It was just good energy. And that's really what I wanted this place to feel like when you walked into it. And so that was what it was going to be. And then I kept telling that to people, and everyone was like, what's that? Like sativa? And I was like, no. And I realized, that's a lot of people might not know what that is. That's not a good move. Then I thought briefly about the golden yogi as a name.
That's cute.
And then ultimately I just was thinking, I wanted something that really embodies being here in St. Pete, being here in Florida, a very just like tropical vibe, and thought Sunshine State was too long. So I just shortened it to SunState. And then I had all of my coworkers at my job vote on those 3 different names. I think I also threw in like St. Pete Power Yoga as an option too. And I was like, okay, vote on these names. Tell me which one you like the best. And SunState Yoga just blew the others out of the water. Everyone voted for that one. And I was like, okay, I think I really like that one too.
Yeah, I liked it too. It does tie into St. Pete, Sunshine City, state known for sun. So that's, I feel like that's a great name.
Thank you.
So, what would you say is kind of that why and that passion behind, why you love yoga so much? Like, what do you feel like it brings to your life or it brings to the customers' lives?
Yeah. For me, I think that my personal practice with yoga has been a continuous reminder that I'm actually capable of so much more than I think that I am. It's helped me realize a lot of my potential. It's helped me gain a lot of peace in my life. It just changed my life completely. A big part of it actually goes even just beyond the physical practice of yoga and how much a yoga community can make a difference in your life. Because when I was in Atlanta and I didn't know a whole lot of people, that was the first place that really felt like home to me. And every time I walked into the studio, people remembered me by my name and were excited to see me and wanted to know how my job interviews were going. And it was just really nice to feel so embraced. And so for me, like my personal why is to be a forklift for others, right? To show people that the life that they want, they are absolutely capable of creating, that they are capable of so much more than they think they are. And also to make every person just feel absolutely loved and welcomed and valued. At the end of the day, like that is my mission, is to make everyone just know how truly wonderful they are.
That's a fantastic mission. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, people need to hear those things. People need those reminders because it's really easy to forget or to fall into like a negative mindset, especially if you're trying to do like life-changing work, which, you're in the, in the yoga space. So people that are trying to get healthier, whether that's general wellness or losing weight or, building muscle, all that stuff, it's easy to get discouraged when we're on that path.
For sure. And I find with yoga too, I mean, I think back to, okay, what did I think about yoga when I first came to it? I thought, I'm not hippie enough to be here, or I'm not earthy enough, or I'm not flexible enough. I'm not calm enough. I'm not quiet enough. Like I have this like big, loud energy. And I just felt like yoga was for people to just like sit and be so calm. And so for me to be able to welcome people and let them see, like, you do not have to be any certain type of way to do yoga. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how it is in life too. Like, you don't have to fit this certain mold. You don't have to, your body doesn't have to move a certain way. Your poses don't have to look a certain way. There's no one right way to be. You can be however you want to be, just be you. And I love that. Like, so our yoga studio, something that's a little different is we don't have any mirrors in our yoga studio room.
Oh, interesting.
And it's very intentional. It's meant to remind people that, like, you don't have to obsess over how you look. It's more important for you to pay attention to how it feels in your body. And everyone's bodies are so different. It's you and I could do the same pose and it would look completely different. And we could both be doing a really wonderful job at the pose. And so I think that by taking away those mirrors, it helps remind people, okay, I don't have to worry about my red, sweaty face or my bra strap sticking out, or, like you're just focused on your body, your breath, and you don't care about what you look like.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I've ever been in an exercise class of any kind where there wasn't a mirror wall. So, and it's awkward because you're looking at yourself, you could see other people. It's like, who's looking at me? Who's doing what? Yeah,
for sure.
I can see that being really impactful, especially for people that are new to yoga or to like a group exercise class type setting.
For sure. Or even someone who's just gets super easily distracted. Right? Like, 'cause if you can see everyone else moving around, that's why I love, like, you're just looking at the wall and you just focus on yourself.
Yeah. So, I saw this on your website with the Baptiste inspired yoga.
Yeah.
Tell me about that and some of your, other type classes or focuses.
Totally. So Baptiste yoga it's just a style of power yoga. If you know what it is, it means something. And if you don't know what it is, you don't have to worry about it. It's literally just it's the methodology that I trained in, and it is more impactful for the teacher who's teaching it and the way that you teach. And the student more or less can't really tell. And if you know it, then yeah, you would be able to tell, but it's not something to worry about. Really what our studio focuses on is power yoga. And so power yoga isn't so much about, like having to be the hardest class ever or whatnot. It's really about empowering our students to show up to their fullest, whatever that looks like on any given day. Right. And that might look really different on a day where you're going through really difficult things than on a day when you're feeling your best. And that's okay. And right, I think that there's a certain amount of empowerment that comes from deciding for yourself what you need, not just doing what someone else expects you to, not giving into your ego and forcing yourself further, but also holding yourself accountable when you are holding back, being like, all right, I could probably go a little more here. I probably could push myself a little more here. Mm-hmm. And so for me, that's what power yoga has always been about. Not so much like, oh, you have to go all out. It's the hardest class you've ever taken. Like it's not that. It's about being completely empowered in each and every moment of your practice.
I've never heard it explained that way. And I've done yoga off and on for a long time. And the only power yoga classes I ever took in the past were, it was, it's like the hardest poses. Like it just, and I still enjoyed it, but it was just like, it felt like it was so focused on the super athletic nature of it. And that's totally different than what you're talking about, which is really cool because it's a connection between like the mind and the body all together, which I feel like yoga really, is that's something that you hear when people talk about yoga is that kind of mind body connection.
Absolutely. And don't get me wrong, our power yoga classes, they can be challenging, but they can be as challenging or not challenging as you want to make it. That's really the cool thing. It's like you have this freedom to kind of create your practice as it goes. That's really our bread and butter. Like that's what we focus on. One of the greatest pieces of advice or greatest lessons I learned from my last job was that there's a lot of value in being the best at what it is that you do rather than trying to do it all. And so it's so funny when I was first opening, I kept getting people asking me like, oh, that's so cool. What kind of yoga are you guys going to do? And I'm like, it's a heated power yoga studio. And they'd be like, like hot? It's going to be hot? Power yoga? No, you know what I love? I love that restorative yoga. You guys should do that. Or I'd get, you know what? You guys should do aerial yoga or you should. And I'm like, it's just so funny because everyone has an opinion about what you should do. And there was a moment where I started to doubt myself. I was like, oh my God, am I doing the wrong thing? Am I like completely misreading the market here? But I just kept coming back to like, no, this is the practice that has changed my life. This is the practice that has changed the lives of people all over the country. There's nothing like it here. Stick to what you know, stick to what you do best. And so I think that is actually one of the things that has made us the most successful since opening is being really clear on what it is that we do best.
Yeah. too many business owners try to be all things to all people. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, you end up being, most of the time, you end up being not serving anyone to the level that you really want to. So it sounds like you're serving people at a really high level because you're focusing and you're really passionate about the lane that you're in.
For sure. And we do have 2 other types of classes on our schedule. The first one is our yoga for athletes. That is a passion for me too, because I come from an athletic background. I've gotten to work with NFL players, volleyball players. I was a volleyball player growing up. And so having that experience, I mean, I just think that all athletes should be doing yoga. And so I created this yoga for athletes class that is slower paced. It's a little bit more focused on dynamic stretching, a little bit less of the power, a little bit more of just the fluid movement and stretching. And it's a good introductory to someone who maybe is intimidated by the idea of going to a yoga class. There's like fun poppy music that we play. We don't om in the class, which sometimes weirds people out. I love to om. So that's our yoga for athletes. It's a great starter class. And then we do have 2 yin classes on our schedule, which are really deep stretching. It's a great balance if you're doing power yoga, 3 or 4 times a week, to take that time to slow down. But you'll notice we'll have like 5 or 6 power hour classes a day. And then we just have 2 yin classes a week and 2 yoga for athletes classes a week. So it's something to supplement, but it's, there's no doubt that power yoga is our bread and butter.
Awesome. So, what about, I can tell that you have a passion for that community sense, in your studio and building that community. Talk a little bit about that and kind of how you feel like you create that sense of community in your studio.
Totally. For me, at the end of the day, it just is a matter of like letting people know that you care, that they're there, that they showed up. A lot of times it can be nerve-wracking for someone to go into a new space, a new practice that they haven't done. And I have had the experience before of walking into a yoga studio and being greeted by the person who just says, "Okay, what's your name? All right, Brittany, go inside." And then you just like sit in silence until class starts.
Very awkward.
Class is over and you just roll up your stuff and you just leave. And it always left me with this feeling of just not really being seen. And so that's something that's always been important to me, is like actually remembering my students' names and asking them about their lives. I'm genuinely a curious person. I genuinely am curious about people's lives and what they're up to. I'm an oversharer. Someone doesn't even have to ask and they walk in and I'm like, "Oh, my weekend was so long." And they're like, "Oh, okay." But it's just like one of those things, like it just takes that one extra step to just share yourself with someone or ask someone about themselves. And then you have a new friend. You have someone that like you look forward to seeing when they come to your classes, and they look forward to seeing you. And, from that being my personality, that's how a lot of our teachers are. That's how a lot of our students are now. If you walk into the room, it doesn't even have to be me. You can hear our students all talking to one another, introducing themselves, chit-chatting about whatever it might be. And yeah, I mean, for me, that's what makes going to a workout class fun. Like so many of us, that's the hardest part, is just getting there. But if you have something to look forward to, if you have a friendly face, if you have good conversation, someone who is expecting you to show up, it's nice. It makes it all a lot more fun.
I agree. It can be hard to go to exercise, go to the gym, go to a yoga studio, make yourself do it. So I agree, when you have like people that are going to be there or ask about you, or of course, if you made plans to go with someone, it's that extra layer of accountability and push to go.
For sure, which we all need. We all need that accountability buddy. And one of the best things that's ever happened to me is that my boyfriend loves coming to yoga. And so there are some nights where I'm just so tired and I'm like, I've been there all day. I don't know that I want to go back, but I'll see that he's already signed up for a class. And so it's like, oh man, okay, there's my accountability. I guess I'll go. And when you have someone that to go with or someone to see there, it definitely is a motivating factor.
I love the sense of community. And I think that, that's St. Pete is a unique city in that sense, where I feel like it's easy to plug in and find those, little communities that resonate with you. And I just love the fact that you're providing that for this city and for the community.
For sure. Well, St. Pete is just one of those places. It's so special. And I think that the people here are what makes it so special. I love that it's not a pretentious city. I love that everyone's pretty low key. There's a lot of sense of pride for our city.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of acceptance of one another where we live. And I mean, I've always been really proud to say that I'm from St. Pete. And I think that the people who I've grown up with and known my whole life here are truly wonderful people. And so it is cool. It's cool to have this space, to have created this space where we can continue to grow that and just multiply on the good energy that already exists here.
Yeah. So talk about I know giving back to the community is important to you as well, since you do love so much. So I know that you have a partnership with Reach St. Pete. Talk a little bit about that and any other, partnerships, nonprofits that you work with.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of in the same vein as like, pick your one thing and focus on that. That's kind of how I've been with Reach. I haven't done a ton of other work with other nonprofits. The girl who runs Reach St. Pete, she went to my high school. And so I just would see on Facebook stuff that they were up to, stuff that they were doing. And I was really impressed. I've always known that, that there is a homeless problem here in St. Pete. And that's a very real thing, especially after COVID, that people are facing. And we're not talking, I mean, it's really common people who, who are not sure, who are housing insecure. They're not sure where they're going to sleep the next month, or, don't have all of the resources that they need to provide for their families. And these are really hardworking people, great people who just need help. And so at the beginning of this year, I just felt like it was my duty, after having survived, shut down, like being closed for 2 months with COVID. And just that first year of business is always challenging for businesses. When we made it past that first year and we're doing well, I was like, man, like we definitely need to give back in some way. And so that's when I decided to start our partnership with Reach. So at the end of every month, on the last Sunday, we do a donation-based yoga class in the park. And so we just invite anyone from the community who wants to come out and join us. And we collect hygiene items and monetary donations. So far, we've raised around $2,500 so far this year for Reach.
That's awesome.
And have collected tons of hygiene items. And then what was really cool is back in, I think it was either April or May, our whole team went down and we actually volunteered one night with Reach to hand out their hygiene items, to work their hygiene item drive. It's for the South Side event that they do on Tuesday nights. So that was really cool to get to see, like, okay, we've been raising this money for them. We've been collecting these hygiene items. What happens to it? And so we got to really experience that firsthand. And then just recently I was able to go and teach a yoga class to some of the kids at their motel outreach project.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, it was wonderful. I mean, it's such a feeling of gratitude to be able to give back. There's like a saying that we talk about in yoga is like closed palms can't receive, right? Like when you're holding on tightly to everything that you have, you can't take anything in. And when you open your palms, when you have open palms and you're willing to give things away, when you're willing to give things up, you are open to receiving so much more. And so it's just a constant reminder, like, yeah, like how blessed am I to be able to just let go and just give to others. And it's just such a blessing. And I'm so grateful to be able to contribute in any small way.
I love hearing that. And I 100% agree with what you just said about like, you know, closed hands can't receive and being open to give. You know, that's, you often hear the term abundance mindset. That's the same type of concept. And, you know, people, they don't correlate the two things between like, you know, struggling in their business and having that negative mindset or whatever, to like the opposite of being open, being positive, because your brain naturally wants to like validate what, you know, what's in your head. So if you have an open, positive mind and you're willing to give, it's gonna attract that stuff back to you. And I love hearing that. And the fact that you were able to be hands-on and volunteer your time is really cool, and teach a class. Was it young kids, or like, what was the age ranges?
Yeah. So a lot of them were in like kindergarten to maybe like third grade. It was like really the age group that we were teaching to. And they're fun. Listen, I'm not like the biggest kids person that there is. You won't catch me teaching a lot of kids yoga classes. Their attention spans are very short. Even the classes that I think are like fun and engaging, they're bored already. So, but it's fun, and it's just lighthearted. And it's such a great reminder that some of these practices that I start to think, oh, you know, those are so basic, you know, let me try and advance. But sometimes it's the basics that are so powerful, like just reminding someone to breathe. Like just reminding yourself that like you get to be in charge of your own peace on that day. You know, like you said, like having that positive mindset, being open, expecting good things to happen.
Yep.
You know, they're basic concepts, but they make a huge difference. And so, yeah, it was really great to get to do that.
When you volunteered at their event, was that like people on your staff, or was it people that attend your classes?
So it was people on my staff. I think we had one or two of our members who really wanted to come out. And honestly, if I was more organized and planned to do it more often, we probably would have a lot of people from our team who would come more often. That is a goal of mine to be better at next year, is actually planning more regular volunteer with my team, because they love it. We all love it. It's just, I mean, you know how things get. Sometimes you're just schedules and juggling a million different things. So
yeah, for sure. Well, how have you seen your business grow in the last year? Because I mean, you were, like you said, a new business, the end of 2019 going into 2020. And now it's, gosh, we're more than halfway through 2021. I don't know where the time's.
Yeah. I actually think that we have really capitalized on how many people have been moving here. Yeah. There are so many, and I guess I know I don't have to tell you that, you know how many people want to move here, because I'm sure that you are trying to find houses for all of them.
Yes. Need more houses.
I know, right? But there are just so many people moving here who, you know, I had mentioned to you that, you know, we are a power yoga studio. That's really common in a lot of other big city areas. And that never existed until we opened here. There's never been a studio in St. Pete that was just like, we just do this. And so we had a lot of people moving here who were going to those places like Core Power or, just these other yoga studios and other areas that do focus on power yoga. And so when they were looking for it, they came right to us. And so we've definitely capitalized on that. I've had to be very growth mindset oriented when it comes to growing. A lot of our growth has come from team growth. So at the beginning of this year, I tripled my payroll and brought on 10 new yoga teachers who are all absolutely wonderful. I had trained them all the year before to be yoga teachers. So I knew that they were really wonderful. I had been training them. I don't like to use the word grooming, but I'm coaching them.
Yeah.
And so, that was scary to make that decision to add new classes on, to triple my payroll, and to just say, you know what, we're just going to go for it and hope that it works out. And it actually has turned out so wonderfully because they're all such wonderful humans, and wonderful humans attract more wonderful humans. And so
for sure.
They have brought so much more life and energy to the place. They've continued to help me reach more people, serve more class times, right? Because beforehand I was teaching like 12 classes a week, which leaves you pretty burnt out. So it was nice to get some help and not have to do it all myself. And that, I think that was definitely one thing that did trigger a big growth spurt for us is in that adding of classes and bringing on more new teachers.
Yeah. So you have the capacity now to serve the people that are coming to you and finding you online.
For sure.
So I was gonna ask, like, how did COVID affect you? Because you were in that unique situation of being pretty newly opened and then having to shut down. So what did that look like for you?
So we were really fortunate. I kind of reached out to our members. At that point, we had gained a decent membership amount. And I just reached out to everyone and had said, hey, listen, if you want to keep paying your membership while we're closed, I'll give you 1 free month when we reopen. And if you want me to pause your membership right now, I can do that. And we'll just kickstart it back when we reopen. And it was actually the absolute perfect scenario where it was half and half. I had half people who were like, listen, I don't know what's happening with my job. I don't know what's happening with the world. I need to pause my membership. And then about another half said, we want to see you survive this, keep charging us. And that was actually the best thing that I could ask for, because then when we reopened, it evened itself out, right? So now all those people that had paused were back on. The people who I owed a free month, now they were off. And so it did. It was a humbling experience to get knocked back down to zero. At least we didn't have to take out any loans. We were able to pay all of our bills, all of those things. But after like being like, yeah, we're growing, we're doing the thing this first few months, and then to be like, right, try that again.
There.
But the cool thing is like, and Brittany, I know that you definitely feel like this too, being an entrepreneur, being in sales, being a business person, that tomorrow, if your entire career got wiped away from you, taken away, you were at nothing. Okay, well, we've already done it. So I know how to do it again. I know what it takes to create that again. And so it was kind of a neat opportunity early on to be reminded that like, okay, we did this once and we can do this again. And we're just going to start again. And yeah, it was wonderful.
See, there's that positive mindset coming in.
Exactly. It's always a good thing to remind yourself of that. Like sometimes when I get scared or when I don't know like what my future is going to look like, or I don't know where things are going, and I don't know, sometimes your mind does, even if you're a positive person, sometimes your mind goes to those worst possible case scenarios. And I just always remind myself over and over again, like, listen, whatever gets handed to me, I can handle it. Like, I've done really hard things before and I can do them again. And I'm going to make something great out of whatever comes my way. And that's something that gives me a lot of comfort when my mind does start to drift into that scary what if place.
Yeah. Well, kudos. That's fantastic. So, and that's a great reminder for everyone else listening, just to, you got to stay the course and, press on and keep fighting, because it's all worth it, in the end. So
yeah.
Very cool. So what's like a typical day look like for you? So it sounds like you've got help teaching classes now. So like, how many classes do you end up teaching? What does like a normal day look like?
Yeah. So it really just depends. There's only one day a week that I don't step foot into the studio, and that's Saturday. And the truth is that I do go a lot of times on Saturdays just because I want to. But that's really the only day that I have that I don't teach any classes. It was a big adjustment going from working a very typical, like at your desk at 8 a.m., you're there until 6:30, 7 p.m. To now my day is just wide open. So at most I teach 2 classes a day. And then sometimes I'll teach private lessons. Sometimes I'll do, I spend a lot of time actually taking classes at the studio. That's a big part of my job, is like going and supporting my other teachers, giving them feedback, just being around the studio.
Yeah.
A large part of my job is doing laundry, folding towels. There's some days where I spend a lot of time on my computer doing admin work, responding to emails, setting up promotions, doing marketing things, just all of the not as glamorous parts of running a business, just the admin stuff.
Yeah.
I probably spend like one day a week staying really on track with my goal tracking. I am obsessed with Google Sheets, and am obsessive about all of the tracking of all of our metrics. So probably once a week, I spend about an hour to see like, where are we so far this month? What needs to happen in order to get to where we're going? Let's brainstorm. What do I need to do? Okay, what do we need to produce each day this week? What do I need to do to make that happen? It's a lot of like planning. I probably do that about once a week.
That's smart. That's a very smart thing to do, because if you don't know where you're at, you can't make new goals or new plans to move the needle or change gear if something's not working or whatever.
For sure. That's definitely one thing that I will say that I'm pretty good at, is like every year I sit down and I think, okay, what do I want to do this year? And then I figure out, okay, what do I need to do each month? And then if I need to do that each month, how much do I need to do each week, each day? And it's such a good way to keep me on track. Like, cause even if you have an off week, then you have that time to kind of get back on it. Or sometimes like the summers are tough. You can have a whole off month, and, but you're making up for it, because you're like, okay, that's fine. Now I just know how to adjust the next month, so that we're still on track for the year. And so, yeah, I love doing it. I geek out over that stuff.
That's really good. I have a business coach, so he helps me like stay on track, and he's pushed me to measure all that kind of stuff, because you just don't, you have no idea. And that's way too many people who own businesses. They have no clue what's really going on. So that's a very smart thing to do. And it's going to bring you more growth faster because you're doing that.
Hope so. Yeah. Fingers crossed. It's what we've seen so far, but just keep chugging along.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so kind of wrapping up a little bit here, what would be some kind of long-term dreams and goals that you have, that you see for yourself and for your business?
Yeah. I definitely want to always be teaching yoga. Even if it's some days less whether it's just 2 times a week. I love leading teacher trainings. That's something that I do about once a year, as lead our 200-hour yoga teacher training program. I want to always be doing that. But I could really see myself someday stepping away from the day-to-day operations of the studio to step into more of a coaching or consulting type of role. I love business. I love operations. I love working with teams. And so I could definitely see myself, being someone who works with other businesses, to help them actualize their goals, help them, figure out, okay, what's off? Like, why aren't you getting to where you're trying to go? Just a lot of that problem solving, a lot of that brainstorming, putting in processes, systems. I could see myself someday being some sort of a coach or consultant that helps people with that.
Very cool. I can see you doing that very well, just from the way you've talked about how you run your business and tracked. You're a nerd about the tracking and all that. So that's really cool.
Thank you. I find that if you're gonna coach someone or teach someone to do something, you need to have proven that you were successful at it first. So we'll see, if I can keep this thing rolling, then maybe that'll work out someday.
Very cool. Well, this has been such a great conversation. I've loved just learning more about you, and I can just totally feel the passion coming from you for what you do. And that makes such a huge difference. I know that anyone that's coming into your studio can sense that. And that's why people keep coming back, I'm sure.
Thank you.
So
I've really enjoyed getting to talk to you too. It's such a neat thing to get to connect with other female business owners in the area.
Yeah, that's true. Women supporting women. I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah.
Well, so I'd like to ask a couple fun questions to end the podcast. You've probably heard these from the other episodes. So on nights that you get to go out and have some fun, what would be, cool spots you like to go to, or restaurants, or, cocktail bar or something like that?
Oof, there's so many.
I know.
I'm obsessed. Like, if I'm going to really treat myself, I love Baba on Central.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Just the quality of the food is so wonderful. I love it. I'm also a big fan of, that whole strip right there. I love Wild Child. That's like literally right across the street from it. It's so good. They have such great cocktails. I also love going to Paul's Landing at the Vinoy. They have that wonderful patio area, wonderful drinks, and it gives you just a different view of downtown St. Pete than what the normal view is. So those are just like a few of my favorite places. I'm trying to think if there's any big ones that I'm forgetting, but those are a lot of my favorite for like a night out on the town.
Yeah. All right. So what about your favorite pizza place? This is always hard, and there's so many different options.
So my favorite pizza place is actually, I have 2 answers for this. Okay. So there's a place out on your way out to St. Pete Beach, out by Tierra Verde, and it's called DeRusso's Pizza. Yep. They do not deliver where I live in downtown St. Pete, but they deliver where my mom lives out by the beach. So sometimes if I'm really craving it, I'll like go over to her house and just order pizza to her house. So that way I can get it. It's my favorite pizza. Okay. But my second option is that they just announced that they're putting in a Colony Pizza on Central Avenue, which is a phenomenal pizza place in Connecticut. Okay. And when I lived in New York for a bit, one of my best friends lived out in Connecticut, and they were obsessed with Colony Pizza. And so every time we would go, we would eat Colony, and it is phenomenal pizza. Absolutely amazing pizza. And they just announced it like last week that they're putting one in on Central. So that is probably going to be my new favorite pizza place.
Okay. I'll have to check it out when it opens. I do remember seeing
it. For sure.
So when you do get the Saturday off where you don't actually go into the studio, what's a dream day off for you? What would that look like?
A dream day off would be, I've convinced one of my friends to take their boat out. I am not yet an owner of a boat, but I'm very good at convincing other people to take me on their boats. And so that would be my ideal day. It would be grabbing a pub sub, grabbing some chips and salsa, jumping on a boat, cruising around, stopping at a sandbar, and just enjoying just a beautiful day out on the water.
Well, we live in the best city for those kind of outdoor adventures. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. This has been such a fun conversation. And, I learned so much about you. I know everyone else is listening. And, I just think that you have that passion, and it totally it oozes out of you. And I know it permeates through your whole studio. So I haven't been personally, so I cannot wait to come.
Yeah, you need to come.
Yeah, I haven't done yoga, and I used to do it a lot, and I got out of, long story short, I was in a car accident, and going through recovery, it was difficult. I found it difficult to do yoga because, any exercise, but it was one of those things where I got out of the habit of doing it. And thankfully I still exercise, which is great, but I'm very inflexible naturally. So I need the extra types of exercise to get me flexible. So I'm going to come check your studio out and get back into yoga.
Awesome. I can't wait. And thank you again so much, Brittany, for having me. This has been such a joy, such a pleasure, such a great way to end the week.
Yay. Awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks for being on. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
If you want more information about this episode and others, please visit my website, brittanyrenew.com. You'll find more information about me, my passion for St. Pete, and real estate there. Look forward to connecting with you soon. Bye, friends.